Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about asymmetrical games. Now, this video, much like most of my videos, is going to be broken into 2 points that I'm going to make. The first point is I'm going to talk about what is symmetry in games. What is symmetrical, asymmetrical, what does that mean in games? And then as usual, the second point is going to be I'm going to basically show off a game and just kind of give a recommendation or an example of asymmetrical play in games. So let's get into it. So we all know how to play Monopoly, although there's this big thing about everyone's been playing Monopoly wrong. Nobody plays Monopoly right. Okay, let's put that out of our minds. We all have heard of Monopoly. We all know how to play. We all have played at some point in our lives, probably when we were kids or college kids in a dorm. We all know how to play, and the game works the same for all of us. The game works the same for me, sitting here playing with my friends in my little game room here, as it works for the person across the street or in another state. It's the same game for everybody. Everyone plays the game the same. It's what we would call in the game designing world a symmetrical game. Symmetry in games basically means symmetrical means that the way that I play the game, and I'm not talking about payoffs or strategies, I'm talking about the fundamental rules, the gameplay, if you will, that I play is the same gameplay that you have. So Monopoly is a good example because on my turn is the exact same thing you do on your turn. The way that I win the game is the exact same way that you win the game. So it's a symmetrical game. Everybody plays the same. We all have the same turns, the turn orders, objectives, the strategies for the most part, although some games offer some branching strategies where it's like, well, I'm going to try to do more of this, or I'm going to try to do more of this next game, or they're playing a different strategy. But at the end of the day, the symmetrical game basically means where the gameplay is the same for everybody. So an asymmetrical game, and there's a few of them out there, is basically the opposite. It's asymmetrical. So the way that I play the game, the way that my turn works, the way that my pieces move or my cards play are completely different than yours. The way that I win the game is different than the way that you win the game, or you, or whatever. It's called asymmetrical game. So it means not symmetrical, not balanced. I shouldn't say balanced. It's not really the right word. It's not the same. There's no symmetry in it. So my objective might be to play all the cards from my hand. And how I play cards is completely different than the way that you play cards. But your objective isn't to play all the cards in your hand. Your objective is to get 20 plus cards in your hand. And so when I play, I'm trying to get you to discard cards. And when you play, you're trying to get me to pick up cards. So we're not meeting our own unique individual objectives. But what we do on our turns is completely different. One honorable mention that I'll talk about before I get into the second part is there's a beloved game from... If you played games back in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a company called Decipher, RIP, doesn't exist anymore, that put out a Star Wars card game that was incredibly asymmetrical. It was, I think, probably one of the first asymmetrical games that ever came out. Don't quote me on that, but man, people really were like, this is an interesting game. It also did something, as a side tangent, it also made your life value your card deck, because you were playing Star Wars with a deck of cards, and so when you would take damage or whatever, you would have to get rid of cards, and when you ran out of cards, that was your life force, and your life force was drained and you'd lose the game. Super popular these days. There's a million games that copy that idea, but man, back in like 1997 it was a big deal. And so that's an honorable mention of asymmetrical games going all the way back to the 90s. And the game I'm going to talk about in more depth tonight actually goes back to the 90s as well, although this is the reprinting of it. And the name of the game is called Netrunner. by Fantasy Flight Games. Now, Netrunner was originally made by a man named Richard Garfield. If you know Richard Garfield, you know he made Magic the Gathering. If you're a Magic the Gathering player, you probably know that name, Richard Garfield. He made Magic the Gathering over a weekend just to pay some bills or whatever. There's kind of a whole story to it that I'll probably tell in a different video. It's kind of interesting how he made that game and how big it is and how much he didn't really put any thought into it. And then he made Netrunner. He made another two-player kind of dueling card game. Now, in Netrunner, the theme is cyberpunk, so already I love the theme. And in the game, one person plays what they call a Netrunner that is basically trying to hack information from a corporation, which would be the other player. So if I play the corporation, you can't play the corporation. If I play the runner, you can't play the runner. Someone has to play side A, someone has to play side B. And you can deck build. It's a deck building game. If anyone out there watching this video enjoys Magic the Gathering, because they like the card decks, the comboing, the deck building aspect, Netrunner is a great game to probably mix it up if you're looking to mix it up at all. But unlike Magic the Gathering, where I can play goblins and you can play goblins, in Netrunner, it doesn't work like that. Someone has to play the good guys, someone has to play the bad guys. Has to be like that. There has to be asymmetry in the game. So how the corporation wins is by advancing their agendas. And how the runner wins is by stealing those agendas from the corporation. And the runner does not have any agenda cards to score in their deck. They have to steal them from the other player. So they have to make what they call runs to try to hack into their deck, into their hand, into cards played on the table. It's a fairly complex game at first, so I'm just gonna leave it at that for now, because I don't really go into rules and stuff like that. But it is an absolute amazing game. I'm terrible at it, but it's fun to play. Richard Garfield made it in the 90s, and it tanked. It ended up becoming a dead card game. And so it was dead forever and ever. The artwork, I've seen pictures online of the original artwork, like the cards, and the artwork was kind of really bad. And so Fantasy Flight picked up the licensing to the game. Oh gosh, I don't even know when. In 2015, I'll venture a guess. And they reprinted and put out Netrunner, the card game. And it went like gangbusters. They had tournaments, people loved playing it. Akin to Fantasy Flight, they put out 1 million expansions of cards, just a crazy amount of expansions, so people could deck build, they could put cards in, they could have certain strategies. Well, this deck focuses on this strategy, but I put together this deck over here that works on this kind of strategy. Like I said, if you're a Magic the Gathering player and you have not played Netrunner or not heard of Netrunner, this is a game to play. Netrunner. It's awesome. The theme is awesome as well. I happen to like a lot of cyberpunk things. So that's a game that I recommend that kind of illustrates the aspect of asymmetry in the game. Like I said, to reiterate, the way that the game is played is completely different for both players. And it's a two-player game, unlike Magic the Gathering, where I know you can play kind of multiplayer and there's different formats to play. As a side note, on a closing side note, I want to talk about this exact box, because this here that I'm holding is not Netrunner, the base game. I do have it on my shelf here somewhere, but I'm holding this one for a reason. Because Netrunner came out with, maybe like 3 years ago, they came out with, I'm going to try to show it, what's called Terminal Directive. Netrunner, the card game Terminal Directive. And it's a pretty deep box. I still have some cards in here. And what it is, it's a campaign game. It's a narrative, sort of a legacy type game, where you're going to play between 10 to, I think, 12 games with the same partner. I'm going to be the corporation every time we play. You're going to be the runner every time we play. And we're playing through a story. And the story is about this robotic humanoid that is being accused of going around killing people, and the corporation that made it is saying, like, no, we got to find this this rogue robot. It's kind of an iRobot sort of feel, and there's a cool story that's involved in it as far as what's going on. And you add cards depending on how your games go. You add stickers to your consoles, which are these like things that you augment into your brain and things like that, that allow you to do special actions as you move further into the game. So it's very much of an upgrading, like, hey, I'm getting better every time that I play. I have more things that I can do, or I'm upgrading because I'm putting new cards into my deck that are better than the last version, or I think you put stickers on top of them that make them better. And so from a narrative aspect, I know this video is about asymmetrical games, which this is one, but Terminal Directive is a good one to buy. If you've played Netrunner already, I definitely recommend you play Netrunner first. Get the gameplay, the rules down, because like I said, it's a highly involved card game. But then if you're looking for something to kind of carry over and have a story to, you want the games to have meaning. You want some choices that have meaning, that will have repercussions later, or benefits, or negative things later, depending on how you play your game. Then Terminal Directive is one to check out. Like I said, you play, there's no amount of games. It just depends on how fast your story moves, on who wins or who loses, but you play like 10 to 12 games, I think, in that range. And so asymmetrical games, they've been around for a while. Like I said, since Decipher put out Star Wars, at least that's as far as I can date back in my head for asymmetrical games. If anyone else knows of an asymmetrical game before that, I'm pretty sure there is one. Maybe you can drop a comment and let me know what the game is. But it's kind of started, for me, it started with Star Wars and it ended with Netrunner. Terminal Directive is a good one to check out for asymmetrical games. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. As always, I will see you at the next video. Bye.